This is the story after the battle of the twin gods at Jialing Pass. What kind of storms will the arrival of the protagonist cause on this newly calmed continent? The Rakshasa fell, the angels were deposed, and the eternal soul hall was ultimately destroyed. The sea god shakes the world, the gods appear consecutively, and the 7 Shrek monsters connect to form gods. Haotian reappears, blue electric reconstructs, and the master also becomes a legendary figure. The gate of summoning, the unparalleled blade, the reborn person stirred up a storm in the mainland. Angel Nirvana, Mehu Chaos, and the resurgence of remnants in the martial soul hall. On the road of revenge, the master falls, Haotian ultimately dies, Blue Dian is expelled, the 9 treasures shine dimly, and the heavenly doe and star Luo cannot escape misfortune. The white tiger died, the spirit cat died, the phoenix coughed up blood, the sausage broke, the 9 treasures of glory could not survive, and the 7 monsters were killed one after another. The sea god is not invincible, and the long sword is difficult to save lives. The story of Tang San is destined to come to an end. The protagonist of this book is not a Virgin Mary or a mentally disabled person. Please rest assured to watch. Keywords of the novel. Douluo's twin gods. No pop-ups after World War II, Douluo's twin gods. Download the complete TXT collection after World War II, and read the latest chapters of Douluo's twin gods after World War II. Chapter 1. After the War, 2 Abandoned Women. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. After the War, 2 Abandoned Women. The battle between the 2 gods ended with the fall of the Rakshasa god Bibidong and the shattered position of the angel god Qianrengshu. Tang Sanshao, the god of the sea and the god of the Shura, came to the end. His victory also meant that the turmoil on the continent had a result. The martial soul empire, which has lost its dual gods, has no power to resist the gods, and all resistance becomes meaningless. Seeing that the situation had passed, many soul masters of the martial soul empire began to give up resistance and choose to surrender, becoming prisoners, under the warning and intimidation of the divine Tang San. Among these prisoners, there was also the originally high-ranking title Douluo, and at this time they had all become lower-level prisoners. As the saying goes, time changes, and with the defeat of the martial soul empire, their fate is also destined to be tragic. Since the heavens are about to destroy my martial soul hall, I don't want to continue living in this world. A soul Douluo powerhouse roared, breaking free from his constraints and breaking free from it. After awakening his martial soul at the age of 6, he came to the martial soul hall. Over 60 years of life have made him feel a strong sense of belonging to the martial soul hall. Now that the situation of the martial soul hall has passed and its downfall has become a foregone conclusion, he is deeply saddened and has developed a desire to die. Pope, we have followed you. A powerful warrior from the martial soul empire chose to self-destruct. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Qianrengshu, who looked disheveled, burst into tears as she saw this scene. She was being supported by Helena as she walked, both of them stumbling and walking reluctantly. Half an hour ago, Qianrengshu was still a majestic, powerful, and invincible angel god, but now she is a useless person with a broken throne and destroyed dantian. And her combat power is not as good as that of an ordinary woman. Helena's situation is not better than hers either. Her dantian has also been deposed, her martial soul has been stripped, and she has become a complete useless person. They all became like this. It was Tang San who personally took the initiative to destroy their martial souls, and elixirs let them completely become useless, and there is no possibility of stirring up trouble in the future before Bibidong's death. He begged Tang San's teacher Yu Xiaojiang for mercy, hoping that they could spare the lives of Qianrengshu and Hulaina. Tang San agreed due to Yu Xiaojiang's face, but his forgiveness was not that simple. In order to make these 2 people live a peaceful life in the future and not think about revenge, he chose to completely depose them. Although it may cause them pain, it allows them to live well and seek revenge without self-destruction. Speaking of which, it is also for their good. Hulaina silently supported Qianrengshu, tears streaming uncontrollably in her eyes, unable to bear to look around. Tang San is now a god, and the means to depose them are also very sophisticated, causing them to lose their martial souls and elixir fields, but not much harm to their bodies. This is also why they can still stand up and walk. If they were to use violence, they would probably have fainted by now. Hurry up, a soldier holding a spear patted Qian Renshue's back, urging them. The 4 soldiers responsible for escorting Qian Renshue and Hu Liena were all looking at them with a hint of mockery in their eyes. It is truly ridiculous that the once magnificent Wuhuan temple saint and the legendary deity have fallen into captivity. Ah! The soldiers' light slaps made Qian Renshue scream in pain, indicating how fragile she was at this moment. Hu Liena protected Qian Renshue, glared fiercely at the soldier, and silently helped Qian Renshue forward. Avalanche, I'll leave it to you to arrange for the 2 of them. Find a place for them and live the rest of their lives in peace. On the city wall, Tang San, dressed in the sea god costume, avalanched to the heavenly Do Emperor beside him. He looked down at Qian Renshue and Hu Liena, who were helping him walk, and still felt a little emotional in his heart. Yes, the heavenly emperor responded respectfully in an avalanche, not daring to disobey Tang San's words. After explaining the matter, Tang San left Jialing Pass with Xiao Wu and others, heading to the battlefield on the side of the Star Luo Empire. On this side of Jialing Pass is the battlefield of the Martial Soul Empire and the Heavenly Do Empire, while the battlefield of the Star Luo Empire on the other side is not yet over. They are going to end the war over there now. With the presence of Tang San, it would be the simplest thing to end the war. Time flies quickly. Half a month has passed since the end of the War of the 2 Gods. In just half a month, the once glorious Martial Soul Empire collapsed, and the Martial Soul Hall, which had been passed down for thousands of years, also declared its demise. The Heavenly Do Empire and the Star Luo Empire began to occupy the territory of the Martial Soul Empire, more precisely, to reclaim their original territory. The territory of the Martial Soul Empire was built on the basis of the 2 kingdoms and principalities of the original 2 empires. These territories were originally part of the 2 empires, but now the 2 empires divide the territory of the Martial Soul Empire based on the original division, because Dai Mubai of the Star Luo Empire and Tang San of the Sea God are brothers. The Heavenly Do Empire dare not seize the opportunity to occupy more territory. They are very honest, only regaining their original territory and not touching the land belonging to the Star Luo Empire. In addition to dividing the territory, the 2 empires also carried out liquidation operations domestically to eliminate the remaining evils of the Martial Soul Hall. The Battle of Jialing Pass and the Battle of Baihu Pass on the side of the Star Luo Empire resulted in the death of the Soul Master of the Martial Soul Hall and the capture of those who were captured. The Martial Soul Hall, which originally had tens of thousands of Soul Masters, now has only 1,000 remaining Soul Masters, all of whom have become wanted criminals and are in a bad situation. With the victories of the Heavenly Do Empire and the Star Luo Empire, the Martial Soul Hall has also become the official evil force. When the 2 empires were clearing the Martial Soul Hall, their slogan was to crush evil and restore the brightness of the continent. At the border between the Tiando Empire and the Xinglua Empire, 4 carriages are sailing from the Tiando Empire towards the Xinglua Empire. These 4 carriages have nothing special, just like ordinary commercial vehicles, but in fact, these 4 carriages are not simple at all, and one of them is sitting on the former Angel God and Martial Soul Temple Saint. This is a carriage that escorts Qian Renshue and Hu Liena to the southernmost city of the Star Luo Empire. As for what, it's natural to send them for retirement, but this one is a bit special. The order under the avalanche of Emperor Tiando was to send them to Gulan and let them work and live there. This is the revenge of the avalanche on Qian Renshue. Qian Renshue, once undercover in the Tiando Empire, killing his brother and also his father. If it weren't for him enduring humiliation and bearing heavy burdens, he would also be unable to escape the hands of poison. If he doesn't avenge this hatred, he will become the ruler of a country. Due to the sea god Tang San, he dared not kill Qian Renshue, but that doesn't mean he can't torture Qian Renshue. Letting the once lofty angel god go to the fence is probably more painful than killing her. As for why he sent Qian Renshue to a city at the southern end of the distant Star Luo Empire, he was worried that one day Tang San would discover it. Send Qian Renshue to the Star Luo Empire, so that even if Tang San starts questioning, he can find reasons to excuse himself and shift the blame onto the Star Luo Empire. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. A tragic situation and being rescued midway. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. A tragic situation and being rescued midway. The carriage was driving normally, and the two soul warriors responsible for this escort were both avalanche confidants. In addition to these two soul warriors, there are also more than 10 soul masters with impressive strength, and the escort lineup is also quite strong. Shengyuan and Huliana sat in the second carriage with no one to fall in love with. Both of them were in a poor mental state, feeling lost and unable to recover from the battle at Jiaoling Pass. During this period, the two of them often shed tears, to the extent that their eyes were slightly red and swollen, and their faces were pale and haggard. When I send you to Gulan, I must be the first to experience it, hee, said a middle-aged man in the carriage with a hint of lewdness. He looked at these two stunning beauties with a burning heart. If it weren't for orders from above, he would have wanted to take action against them. Now, when the time comes, we'll be together. Hee. Another man and his companions exchanged a glance, both laughing lewdly. Shengyuan and Huliana had already known their tragic fate ahead, and their words had become numb. What they are thinking now is to find an opportunity to resolve themselves and avoid those insults. In the first carriage, Soul Douluo, who was sleeping with his eyes closed, noticed something and suddenly opened his eyes. Bomb. At the moment he opened his eyes, an attack landed and easily destroyed the carriage. Enemy attack, alert, alert. Soul Douluo rushed out of the carriage, and his martial soul was released, loudly reminding the others, "Young master, holy maiden, I have come down to save you." 20 or so soul masters rushed out and quickly approached the carriage. The leader is a woman with 8 soul rings swirling in melody, who is an 8-ring Soul Douluo. The woman has a good appearance and a good figure, but she has a big belly that doesn't match her slender figure. Her stomach is not caused by obesity, but because she is pregnant for over 9 months and not far from giving birth. A big-bellied woman came to save people. Looking for death, Soul Douluo from the Heavenly Do Empire couldn't help but snort coldly upon seeing this. A great battle broke out between soul masters, and as soon as they made contact, they made an unreserved move. The number of soul masters on this side of the martial soul hall is superior, but in terms of Soul Douluo's combat power, there is only one pregnant woman. It is precisely because of the difference in the power of the Soul Douluo that even if they have an advantage in numbers, it is difficult for them to truly gain any advantage. They will come to save people. The soul masters on this side of the martial soul hall must be prepared and have inquired about the escort personnel on this side of the Heavenly Do Empire. In theory, they should bring more people in order to save people more easily. Unfortunately, the current martial soul hall is no longer the same as before, with fewer soul masters. They, who are considered wanted by evil individuals, are hiding in the east on the mainland and scattered everywhere. The more than 20 people who came this time are all part of their group of fugitives, and there is no way to find more people. They came to save people this time with a dying heart. Even if the whole army was destroyed, this is destined to be a bitter battle. After more than half an hour of bloody fighting, both sides are defeated. More than 10 soul masters from the Heavenly Do Empire fought tirelessly in the martial soul hall, but only one soul warrior managed to escape alive, and almost all of them died in the martial soul hall, leaving only one broken-armed soul saint and a Soul Douluo woman who was seriously injured and on the brink of death. My stomach. Soul Douluo woman Sun Hui was covered in blood, painfully covering her big belly. Shengyuan and Huliana ran quickly to the woman's side, looking at her anxiously and feeling a bit lost. Why did you come to save us when you could live well? Huliana couldn't help but cry looking at these corpses. Both Shengyuan and Huliana felt uncomfortable and felt very guilty. The heavily injured soul saint was unable to survive and fell to the ground, leaving only 3 people alive. Help! Save my child! Sun Hui pleaded. Before dying, all she had in mind was her own child. She should be giving birth soon, said Shengyuan, calmer than Huliana. She had already started taking off Sun Hui's pants and wanted to help her give birth. Huliana also tried her best to calm her emotions and hurriedly helped, becoming a midwife with Shengyuan. What they can do for Sun Hui now is to help her give birth as much as possible, so that her child can survive. Ah! Sun Hui screamed in agony, forcefully insisting not to let the sense of death engulf her. As the saying goes, women are inherently weak, but as mothers, they are strong. Sun Hui, who was seriously injured and on the brink of death, persevered for more than 2 hours for her own child, coming out, coming out. Helena held the baby covered in mucus and blood, feeling indescribable joy. Help. Help me. Take care of my child. After saying these words, Sun Hui could no longer hold on and died from choking before she died. She didn't even have a chance to take a glance at her own child, not even knowing if the child was male or female. Hello. Hello. Xian Renxue and Hulayina both changed their faces and tried to call out to Sun Hui. They don't even know Sun Hui's name. The situation was urgent just now, and they were busy helping Sun Hui give birth. They didn't have the mood to ask her name. The baby held by Helena had not two big eyes, which were very beautiful and lively. It was that gaze, not something that a newborn child could possess, but rather the gaze of an adult. His gaze fell on Sun Hui, staring at her with a hint of sadness, but more of it was still calm. You and I can also be considered to have a brief mother-son relationship. Don't worry, one day I will reverse life and death, let you live another life. A voice that only he could hear echoed in the boy's mind, which was his promise to Sun Hui. In order to save the two of us, you guys put yourself up, is it worth it? Qian Renxue sighed as she looked at these corpses. She looked at the baby held by Helena again, feeling even more guilty, and said, you are also a poor child. I was born without a mother, and I don't know who my father is. What should I do in the future? The boy had complete consciousness and heard Qian Renshue's words clearly, but he naturally wouldn't answer anything even if he wanted to answer. The sound he made from his current baby's body was probably whimpering. Wow wow, it seems that we cannot commit suicide at the moment. We need to raise him, otherwise we will apologize for her mother's desperate efforts to save her. We can also raise him a bit and then commit suicide, so even without us, he can survive on his own and not starve to death. Helena looked at the baby in her arms, her eyes soft, and her desire to commit suicide faded a lot. Let's take care of him for a while before we talk, Qian Renxue said, agreeing with Hulayina's proposal and not just leaving the child unattended. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Yuan 6 years old, awakens martial soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Yuan 6 years old, awakens martial soul. Time flies. 6 years pass by in a hurry. Sang village is one of the many small villages in the northeast of the Luo Empire. The village is not large and has a permanent population of only over 100. Many people in the village make a living by planting mulberry trees, and every time the mulberry leaves are harvested, it is the busiest time for the villagers. When everyone in the village went out to pick mulberry leaves and was busy, one household remained indifferent. This household is located in the northernmost part of the village, near the mountain peak, and there are no residents within 100 meters around it. Rather than saying that this household also belongs to Sang village, it is better to say that it is close to Sang village and the two sides are neighbors. Yuan, today is your 6th birthday. Happy birthday to you. There are 2 women and 1 man in the main hall of a small grass house at this moment. The speaker was a blonde woman with a tall figure and a stunning appearance. Although she was dressed in cloth without any brocade, she still had outstanding brilliance. Her temperament and appearance are out of place with the cloth clothes on her body, just like a fallen queen who has lost her former glory. The woman around her is of the same age, with a beautiful figure and outstanding appearance, and a pair of phoenix eyes that are naturally charming. Both women are rare beauties in the world, but they are both dressed in cloth, with no makeup on their faces, dressed like village women. 6 years have passed, and time has left traces on these 2 ordinary women. They are actually in their 30s, and without the support of cultivation, this is already reflected on their faces. Time drives people to grow old, and the 2 women are no longer young girls, but in middle age. Their mature charm cannot be concealed. That man is a child, and at the age of 6, he is only over 1 meter tall. His features have not yet developed, but he can be considered delicate. His most impressive eyes were lively, with black pupils that seemed to reflect the starry sky of the universe, incredibly deep. Thank you. Yuan took the small cake from Qian Renshue's hand and ate it with a spoon. He doesn't like to eat these things, but it's a gesture from Qian Renxue and Hulaina. There's no need to refuse. Qian Renxue and Hulaina sat opposite Yuan Yi, watching him eat the cake with shallow smiles on their faces. The past scenery has become a thing of the past for them, and now what they want is a stable life. This child, who has been taken care of by them for 6 years, has become their spiritual support. Qian Yi, Hu Yi, I want to awaken my martial soul, Yuan Yi said to the two after finishing the small cake. Upon hearing these words, Qian Renxue and Hulaina were both stunned. They exchanged a glance and saw the complexity and hidden pain in each other's eyes. Actually, being an ordinary person is also quite good. There is no need to awaken the martial soul and become a soul master, said Qian Renxue after a moment of silence. Yes, what's good about being a soul master? A peaceful and stable life like we do now is thousands of times better than being a soul master. Hulaina quickly agreed. Neither she nor Qian Renxue wanted Yuan Yi to become a soul master. As for the reason, it is naturally because he is worried that Yuan Yi wants to seek revenge for his mother. Revenge must also be within one's means. How can Yuan Yi alone seek revenge against the entire Tiando Empire? Even if he can report, he will still work very hard. This is not what they want to see. They only hope that Yuan Yi lives well. Qian Yi, Hu Yi, don't try to persuade me to give up. Becoming a soul master is necessary for me. No matter how you persuade me, I will not change my decision to awaken my martial soul and become a soul master, Yuan Yi said seriously with a resolute attitude. You child, why are you so stubborn? Qian Renxue sighed, feeling helpless with Yuan Yi. Having been with Yuan Yi for 6 years, she knows the child's personality and also knows that he is relatively precocious and has his own opinions on everything. Since he has made a decision, there is no way to change it. At least they cannot make him change it. Since you insist on becoming a soul master, I won't persuade you anymore. Respect your choice. However, we may not be able to help you awaken your martial soul at the moment. Qian Renxue felt embarrassed as she said this. Now awakening the martial soul requires going to the city and paying 2 gold soul coins. We cannot retrieve these 2 gold soul coins temporarily. But don't worry, your Aunt Hu and I will go and pick more mulberry leaves during this period, and we will definitely be able to help you gather all the necessary resources. Qian Renxue was afraid that Yuan Yi would be sad because of this, so she quickly added, her expression a bit bitter. Who would have thought that this angel god would worry about 2 golden soul coins, which is truly a bit ironic. After they came here, they also made a living by picking mulberry leaves, and the money they earned was barely enough to sustain their daily expenses. 2 golden soul coins are not a small expense for ordinary people, and it is not so easy to take them out. After the fall of the martial soul palace, the power to awaken the martial soul was firmly held by the 2 empires. Nowadays, ordinary people need to go to the official martial soul awakening institution in the city and pay 2 gold soul coins to awaken their martial souls. The era of free awakening of martial souls has passed, and the cost of awakening martial souls to become soul masters has increased. No need. I have other ways to awaken my martial soul, Yuan Yi said, naturally understanding the situation at home. What can you do? Qian Renxue and Hulaina didn't quite believe Yuan Yi's words. Awakening the martial soul relies on the awakening formation, and there is no other way to awaken the martial soul. I can feel the presence of my martial soul inside me, and when I try to release it, there is an invisible barrier blocking it. This kind of barrier was relatively strong before I turned 6 and couldn't be broken, but when I turned 6, the barrier became much weaker. Now when I try to release my martial soul, I am able to break through almost half of the barrier. If I can find a way to weaken this barrier a bit more, then I can smoothly release my martial soul, Yuan Yi said. Qian Renxue and Hulaina looked at Yuan Yi in surprise, surprised by what he said at such a young age. Having such a clear sense of one's own situation is quite different from ordinary people. In fact, what Yuan Yi said was somewhat conservative. He had a way to break through this barrier before the age of 6, that is to say, he has a way to awaken a person's martial soul before the age of 6. Unfortunately, this method is not very suitable for him because there is no soul master with soul power around him. It's not very realistic to seek help from other soul masters. After all, Qian Renxue and Hulaina are sensitive to their identities. In the past few years of getting along, although Qian Renxue and Hu Lina did not reveal their previous identities to him, he could also guess that their previous identities were not simple, and they had enemies outside. This can be seen from the fact that they took themselves to hide in this small village and were also a bit cautious in their usual actions. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The Gate of Summoning, Taichu Shengyuan Sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The Gate of Summoning, Taichu Shengyuan Sword. How do you want to weaken this barrier? Qian Renshue's heart twitched and asked tentatively, when I try to release my martial soul, there is a sense of obstruction in some parts of my body. My idea is to use needling in these areas, maybe it can make the blockage disappear and successfully release the martial soul. Yuan pointed to his chest, abdomen and other positions. Without the help of a soulmate, he had to rely on acupuncture and moxibustion to awaken the spirit of Wu. He has come up with many methods to awaken the Wulin, but acupuncture and moxibustion is the most suitable method at present. Let's wait for a while. If you use acupuncture, I'm afraid I'll damage you, Hulina said with a smile. Qian Renxue smiled and nodded, agreeing with Hulaina's statement that her body could not be easily pricked. Qian Hu if you don't help me with acupuncture, then I'll have to do it myself. I must try this method. Yuan said seriously with a resolute attitude, determined to do so. Let's help you. Qian Renxue and Hulina reluctantly agreed. They knew that Yuan would definitely do what he said. Instead of letting him mess around on his own, it would definitely be better if they were there. Let's start now. Yuan is an action school. Go to get the needle immediately and start acupuncture and moxibustion immediately. Qian Renxue and Hulaina shook their heads helplessly. They had no choice but to cooperate with Yuan after a simple preparation. Yuan took off his shirt, pants, and stood on the bed wearing only a pair of short shorts. He picked up a few needles himself and inserted them into some areas in front of his body, which were easy to reach with his hands. His seemingly casual thrust made Qian Renxue and Hulina frown and quickly shouted to be gentle, "Don't prick yourself, you can help me with the needle on my back." Yuan handed out the needle box and said to the two women, he now has silver needles on his legs, abdomen, chest, and arms, making him look like a hedgehog. Let me do it. Qian Renxue took the needle box and Yuan turned to her side. "Aunt Hu, come over and turn your back to me," Yuan said to Hulaina. Hulaina arrived in front of Yuan for some unknown reason, as he said, with her back to him, "Pierce a needle here." Yuan placed his finger in a position on Hulina's back, demonstrating to Qian Renxue. Qian Renxue followed the instructions and picked up a needle and placed it in the corresponding position on Yuan's back. "Here," Yuan pointed to another place, telling Qian Renxue the location while also reminding her of the depth of penetration. "All right," Yuan stopped Qian Renxue, saying that there was no need to stab the silver needle again, it was already enough. Qian Renxue and Hulaina looked at Yuan who had been stabbed into a hedgehog, with a heart-wrenching expression. They were also nervous and secretly looking forward to it. After the silver needle was pierced, Yuan began to try to guide the martial soul out, relying on himself to complete the awakening of the martial soul. What he said before is that the silver needle can break the barrier that blocks the release of martial souls, which is not a joke. The silver needles on his body almost made the barrier for his martial soul to be released disappear, and he could no longer hinder the release of his martial soul. Yuan's body experienced a faint energy fluctuation, which made Qian Renxue and Hulina's eyes widen. Is it really possible? Qian Renxue and Hulaina exchanged a glance, both seeing the terror in each other's eyes. At first, they didn't have much hope and only thought it was Yuan playing around, but to their surprise, it really worked. Yuan raised his right hand, and countless small gray light dots floated out of his palm and condensed together quickly. A palm-sized gray portal floated in Yuan's palm, which was his martial soul, the Gate of Summoning. Qian Renxue and Hulaina looked at the gray small door and instantly thought of the martial soul of Yuan's mother, Sun Hui. They have seen Sun Hui fight and know that her martial soul is a gray summoning gate. Yuan Yi's martial soul is extremely similar to his mother's, except for some strange patterns on the door. These strange patterns add a mysterious and powerful feeling to the summoning gate, making it look extraordinary. After the awakening of the martial soul, information related to it also flooded into my mind. Yuan Yi was well aware of the ability of this martial soul, whose main function was to summon. I seem to have two martial souls, Yuan Yi suddenly said, slowly lifting his left hand. Due to Yuan Yi's words, Qian Renxue and Hulaina's pupils shrank, their eyes widened, and their breathing became rapid. They stared intently at Yuan Yi's raised left hand, wanting to see if anything would appear in Yuan Yi's left palm. Golden dots floated out and eventually condensed into a golden small sword. The small sword is only the size of an index finger and looks like a toy. It is exquisitely exquisite and emits an extremely terrifying aura. Qian Renxue and Hulina stumbled backwards, their faces slightly pale. The breath of the small sword suffocated them and they couldn't bear it. Yuan Yi immediately controlled the small sword and restrained its aura, which made Qian Renxue and Hulaina feel better. Looking at this small sword, Yuan Yi's expression was somewhat dazed. Thinking of the fierce battle before his death at that time, several true immortals teamed up to deal with themselves, a newly immortal Yuan Xian, and pushed themselves to a desperate situation. In the end, the original weapon Taichu Shengyuan's sword was broken and damaged, and I also fell on the spot, with only a trace of residual soul remaining. Fortunately, he was lucky enough that this trace of soul did not completely disintegrate, but coincidentally merged with the fetus. Fusion with an unconscious fetus is equivalent to a lifetime of rebirth. What kind of martial soul is this? Qian Renxue and Hulaina both looked at the golden small sword in shock. Although they are ordinary people now, their eyes are still on it. From their breath just now, they know that this martial soul is not insignificant. Taichu Shengyuan's sword. Yuan Yi said the name of this martial soul, and the martial soul in front of him was his own weapon. Of course, he was also aware that this was not the true Taichu Shengyuan sword, but a martial soul condensed from a trace of the aura of the Taichu Shengyuan sword. Qian Renxue and Hulaina looked at each other in confusion, both of whom were the first to hear of this martial soul and had no understanding of it. Yuan Yi did not explain to the two women what the Taichu Shengyuan sword was, and after staring at the small sword for a while, he just put it away. I didn't expect Xiaoyi to still be the owner of the twin martial souls. Hulina quickly snapped out of surprise and said excitedly she used to be a soul master, and naturally knew the rarity and power of twin martial souls, which is why she was so excited. Qian Renxue was also very happy for Yuan Yi, and the smile on her face could not be restrained for a short time. Yuan Yi's performance is relatively calm, and he is not too excited just because he is a twin martial soul. After collecting both martial souls, Qian Renxue and Hulaina began to remove the silver needle from their bodies. They also reacted and helped to remove the silver needle. After packing up, the three of them sat around the round table and talked about Yuan Yi's two martial souls. Through Yuan Yi's narration of his feelings towards martial souls, Qian Renxue and Hulaina also gained a certain understanding of his two martial souls. Next, Qian Renxue and Hulaina began to popularize some basic knowledge of soul masters for Yuan Yi. They had never proactively mentioned anything related to the soul master to Yuan Yi before, because they did not want Yuan Yi to follow the path of a soul master. Will Yuan Yi know the soul master, or did he learn from other people in the village? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Power of One Sword, Setting Off to Hunt for Souls. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Power of One Sword, Setting Off to Hunt for Souls. Yuan Yi listened carefully, and he firmly remembered what Qian Renxue and Hulaina had said in his mind. It's easy for him to remember what he has heard and not to use it for a second time. Yuan Yi also raises questions while listening, which are all relevant and crucial. Qian Renxue and Hulaina talked relatively easily because Yuan Yi was smart enough to talk to smart people and achieve twice the result with half the effort. After their narration, Yuan Yi gained a relatively clear understanding of soul masters and the cultivation system of this world. Aunties, you used to be soul masters, right? Yuan Yi suddenly asked. This question silenced both Qian Renxue and Hulina, and unpleasant memories flooded into their minds, making their expressions not very good. I can feel that I am in a bottleneck state, which is level 10 soul power and requires soul rings to break through, Yuan said, shifting the topic. He didn't need two people to answer, their expressions had already given him the answer. Confirming his inner judgment, he is very familiar with his own situation, and if he wants to further break through his cultivation, he needs some external help, and this external force is the so-called soul ring. It should be, you are a twin martial soul, and both martial souls are relatively powerful. The innate soul power is mostly level 10, said Qian Renshue. She and Hulayina are not soul masters now and cannot sense Yuan Yi's soul power level. They also do not have soul power ball tests, so they can only rely on analysis and judgment. The next thing I should do is go to the soul beast forest to obtain the soul ring, Yuan said. Indeed, it is necessary to obtain the soul ring, but obtaining this soul ring is not easy. Qian Renshue looked at Hulayina beside her in embarrassment, who also looked at her. Both of them smiled bitterly, with a lonely and helpless expression. Yuan noticed the expressions on both of them, and with a sharp mind, he didn't know why they were like this. I am now considered a soul master and can obtain soul rings by myself, Yuan said. He doesn't have much knowledge about soul beasts, but he still has a keen eye and is confident in judging which soul beast is suitable for him. As for whether we can defeat the target soul beast and safely come out of the soul beast forest, it's hard to say. After all, he doesn't have strong enough strength now to walk horizontally in the soul beast forest. How can this be done? You're a child going alone to the dangerous soul beast forest, isn't that seeking death? Hulayina was a little agitated. You must not go to the soul beast forest alone. Qian Renshue also spoke seriously and firmly rejected Yuan Yi's proposal. Then you accompany me, help me identify soul beasts, and I will protect you. Yuan retreated and begged for the second best. He saw that the two were so serious, so he could only choose to take a step back and take them. Although it would be a bit more burdensome, it would also be beneficial. They who know about soul beasts can go with themselves and provide some theoretical help. You little brat, can you protect us? Hulayina glanced at Yuan with a smile on her face. If we can't protect, we have to protect. We actually don't have many choices. Either we go together or I go alone, Yuan said. Qian Renshue and Hulayina fell silent again, their expressions bitter. Indeed, they didn't have much choice. They are just ordinary people now, and they cannot provide too much help to Yuan in soul hunting. If they don't follow, it will actually make Yuan less stressed, but if they don't go, they won't be at ease. A 6-year-old child knows nothing about the soul beast forest and has no one to take care of it, which is too dangerous. Let me consider it with your aunt Hu, and I'll give you an answer tomorrow, said Qian Renshue. Okay, Yuan nodded. He could still afford to wait for a day. Qian Hu, I want to try the power of my martial soul. You guys should also come and take a look. Yuan changed the topic. Okay, Hulayina readily agreed, and Qian Renshue also nodded. They were all very curious. The three of them walked out of the house towards the mountain peak and arrived at a relatively secluded place. If the villagers were not close, it would be difficult to see them. This summoning gate seems to require obtaining soul rings before summoning creatures to help me fight. It cannot be used now. What I can use now is the martial soul of the Taichu Shengyuan sword, Yuan said as he released the Taichu Shengyuan sword. After releasing the Taichu Shengyuan sword, he changed to holding it with his right hand, but he doesn't have the habit of holding it with his left hand at the moment. When he held the sword in his right hand, his entire demeanor underwent a tremendous transformation. The clothes were windless, and numerous slender sword energies appeared around him, swirling around him. The sound of sword sounds echoed from heaven and earth. Qian Renshue and Hulayina both widened their eyes as they watched Yuan like this, feeling deeply shocked in their hearts. Yuan looked calmly at the mountain ahead and slashed his sword from below, with a golden sword aura flying out. The golden sword aura fell on the mountain peak with a bang, and fragments of rock splashed up. A sword mark of over 2 meters appeared on the originally intact rock. Qian Renshue and Hulayina walked towards this mountain rock in a tacit understanding, and approached to observe. What kind of martial soul is this and why is it so powerful? Helena was shocked. It's a bit outrageous that a sword aura that was casually slashed penetrated 3 or 4 centimeters of hard rocks. You should know that Yuan Yi is only a level 10 soul warrior who has not yet obtained a soul ring, and his power is seriously inconsistent with his cultivation. This power is enough to harm a 1,000-year-old soul beast. Qian Renxue was also surprised after Yuan Yi swung out this sword. He put away the Taichu Shengyuan sword and stood in place for a while before walking towards the two women. Don't be fooled by his casual sword just now. In fact, it used nearly 70% of his soul power. The instantaneous consumption of a large amount of soul power made him feel overwhelmed and needed to slow down. He will wield this sword to give Qian Renxue and Hulaina confidence and let them know that he has the means to kill soul beasts. The effect has also been achieved, and after seeing the power possessed by Yuan Yi, Qian Renxue and Hulaina have gained a certain degree of confidence in the hunting souls they have docked with. Yuan Yi, you should practice using this Taichu Shengyuan sword soul these days. Once you become familiar with it, we will set off to hunt souls. Qian Renxue said. Next, they will hunt and kill soul beasts. All they can rely on is Yuan Yi, the second martial soul. Good, Yuan Yi replied. 3 days later, early in the morning, Yuan Yi, Hulaina, and Qian Renxue left the door and headed towards the nearby town. The three of them had no means of transportation to rely on, so they had to walk for more than 10 miles. Qian Renxue and Hulaina both wrapped their faces in coarse cloth, and they would do this every time they entered the city. Yuan Yi has nothing to hide, just dressed up normally and walking between the two women. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Sleeping in the Open, Starry Forest. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Sleeping in the Open, Starry Forest. Yuan Yi, you must practice swordsmanship more in the future. With your talent, you will definitely become the strongest sword soul master on the mainland. Hulina kept talking all the way, and when she talked about Yuan Yi's talent for practicing swordsmanship, she was even more excited. Qian Renxue also nodded, and Yuan Yi's sword practice these days made her only describe it as a monster. Yuan Yi's talent is too high. He seems to have been born for swordsmanship. In just a few days, he has become a skilled swordsman. Yuan Yi agreed. He does practice swordsmanship frequently, which is his hobby. Along the way, the three of them chatted without a word, and the atmosphere was not too silent. When the three of them arrived at the town, it was already noon. They simply ate something and rented a carriage to set off. They are going to the Starry Forest, which is over 700 miles away. Walking is not enough for such a long distance. In fact, they have a closer option, which is the artificial soul hunting forest 300 to 400 miles away. However, after this artificial soul hunting forest is taken over by the Douluo Empire, if you want to enter, you need to pay 100 gold soul coins for Qian Renxue and her companions. The 2 gold soul coins are both money that cannot be withdrawn, let alone 100 gold soul coins for them. It's like an astronomical amount of money. They can't even take it out. They, who cannot afford it, can only choose to go further and more dangerous to the Star Forest, where they can enter for free. It is worth mentioning that entering the artificial soul hunting forest is also free. But there is a prerequisite, that is to join the Douluo Empire and serve as a soul master for the royal family. In order to obtain privileges, they will set an entry threshold of 100 gold soul coins, which is actually a way to force those free soul masters to join. Not only does the Starry Empire have such a threshold, but the soul hunting forest on the other side of the Heavenly Do Empire also has a similar threshold. Let me tell you, when you go to the Star Forest, you must listen to us and not act recklessly. On the carriage, Hulaina chattered incessantly, earnestly warning Yuan Yi, afraid that he would make a scene in the forest. "And why don't you talk to me about soul beasts?" Yuan Yi changed the topic. These reminders are actually unnecessary for him. He is not a real child. The carriage they rented was the cheapest and slower, covering a distance of over 700 miles for over 10 hours. By the time they arrived more than 30 miles away from the Starry Forest, it was already over 1 o'clock in the morning. The coachman only wants to come here and doesn't want to get close to the Starry Forest, as it could potentially cause harm to human life. The three of them got off the carriage, and the surroundings were pitch black. With the help of moonlight, they could only see a few meters of scenery. "Let's rest here and set off for the starry forest at dawn," said Qian Renxue after looking around. "This area has a relatively flat terrain and can be used as a resting place, so I don't expect to encounter anyone passing by. After all, the starry forest at night is very dangerous, and there shouldn't be many soul masters willing to enter at night." "That's it." Yuan Yi and Hulina had no objections, and the three of them took out the prepared coarse cloth from their backpacks. The coarse cloth is laid on the ground, which is their bed for tonight, and the bedding is another piece of coarse cloth. Yuan Yi slept between Qian Renxue and Hulina, which the two women insisted on for Yuan Yi's safety. "I didn't expect us to live such a life one day," said Hulina, lying down, looking at the stars in the sky with some emotion. Who would have thought that the once magnificent Wuhuan temple saint would be so miserable as to sleep on the ground in the open air? Qian Renxue didn't speak, just silently looked at the sky, with countless thoughts and bitter tears falling from her eyelids. Yuan Yi closed his eyes and pretended to be asleep, but in reality, he didn't feel much drowsiness in such an outdoor environment where one's own safety cannot be guaranteed. Falling asleep means handing life and death over to luck. Upon hearing Hulina's heart-wrenching emotions, he didn't ask and just ignored them. Even if he asked now, Hulina wouldn't tell him about her past experiences with Qian Renxue. Rather than asking for nothing, it's better not to ask. When the time comes, these two people will tell themselves. On this outdoor night, neither Qian Renxue nor Hulina fell asleep, and the memories of the past made them suffer from insomnia. Yuan Yi is not sleeping, secretly operating his mind techniques to keep himself awake and maintain a good mental state. At dawn, the three of them put away the coarse cloth, ate a dry cake each, and then set off for the star forest. The three of them walked relatively fast and wanted to try to arrive at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then spend 3 or 4 hours inside to obtain the soul ring. It is impossible to stay overnight in the starry forest. With their strength, staying overnight inside is equivalent to seeking death. After 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the three of them successfully arrived outside the starry forest. Looking at the forest in front of him, Yuan Yi's expression became a bit serious, and he felt danger inside. This means that there are creatures inside that can threaten their own lives, and there are still quite a few. Qian Renxue and Hulina once again reminded Yuan Yi with a serious expression, and the danger inside was not a joke. "If you encounter an invincible soul beast, don't worry about the two of us. Run away quickly on your own, okay?" Qian Renxue said seriously. "Let's talk about it later," Yuan Yi said perfunctorily. He couldn't do such a thing. Qian Renxue and Hulina took care of him for 6 years, and this relationship is worth his efforts to protect them. "Don't just agree, you must do it then," Hulina said seriously. "Got it, let's go," Yuan Yi said helplessly, taking the lead and walking towards the forest. "Didn't you tell you, kid? Don't leave us." Hulina and Qian Renxue quickly followed. After entering the forest, the three of them got very close, with Qian Renxue and Hulina each looking in one direction to see if there were any soul beasts. Yuan Yi mainly looks ahead, but is also wary of the surroundings. He is quite careful when he first comes to the soul beast forest. Indiana. Less than 20 minutes, the three of them met another white ape from the 10th grade. Seeing this soul beast, Qian Renxue and Hulina were both very nervous. This soul beast, which they once wouldn't even glance at, is now enough to easily kill both of them. Yuan Yi looked calmly at the monkey, who was taller than him, with no waves in his heart. The soul beast was a bit weak. The white ape bared its teeth and rushed over, while Yuan Yi also charged forward, flexibly avoiding it and waving his arms before kicking it in the neck. His kick was very powerful, hitting the most vulnerable part of the white ape's neck. The white ape let out a scream, its neck tilted, and its body fell to the side. Yuan Yi's kick directly ended its life. A white soul ring floated out, and Yuan Yi curiously looked at it. Qian Renxue and Hulina were both stunned when they saw this scene. How easy was it to kill the white ape? The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Encountering a human-faced magic spider. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Encountering a human-faced magic spider. don't try to guide this soul ring with energy. Qianren Shuejian Yuan Yi stared at the soul ring and quickly reminded him. Shi and Hulina quickly walked to Yuan Yi's side, pulling him away, afraid that he would guide him to absorb the soul ring. This is another soul ring from the 10th grade. If Yuan Yi absorbs it, it would be a waste of his talent. Their expectations for the first soul ring of Yuan Yi are at least 100 years, and they should strive to approach the maximum lifespan as much as possible. The maximum absorption limit of the first soul ring is over 400 years, and the maximum will not exceed 430 years. I won't absorb this soul ring, said Yuan Yi, who had no intention of absorbing it. After Qian Renxue and Hulaina's previous narration of the soul ring, he has understood that he has a certain understanding of the soul ring. Where didn't he know that this white soul ring was the worst type of soul ring? He wouldn't choose to absorb it. Let's go, let's continue searching for the soul beast, said Qian Renxue. Yuan Yi nodded and slowly moved his gaze away from the white soul ring, continuing on with the two women. Why was that white ape so fragile just now? It was kicked to death by Xiao Yi with just one kick. Hulaina whispered. Xiao Yi's kick should have hit the weak spot of the white ape, which killed him. Under normal circumstances, the white ape is not that easy to kill. Qian Renxue analyzed that Yuan Yi's action of killing the white ape just now left a deep impression on her. She couldn't help but look at Yuan Yi walking in the middle, her eyes shining brightly. Yuan Yi's combat talent was somewhat outrageous. Although Yuan Yi's action of killing the white ape was simple just now, it was not something that ordinary people could do. Qian Yi, Hu Yi, let's stop talking in the forest and focus on guarding against soul beasts, Yuan Yi reminded. Qian Renxue and Hulaina ended their conversation with some embarrassment and focused their attention on the surroundings. More than 2 hours later, at dusk, the forest was already somewhat dim and the light was not very bright inside. We can only search for half an hour at most. If we haven't encountered a soul beast suitable for Xiao Yi yet, we'll turn around and leave the forest. Qian Renxue looked up at the sky and realized that it was already dusk, not far from the complete darkness. Good, Yuan Yi did not object. Spending the night in the forest full of soul beasts was indeed not a wise choice. It's another 10-minute search. There should be some kind of spider-like soul beast around here. Yuan Yi slowed down his pace. Why did you say that? Qian Renxue and Hulaina looked at Yuan Yi puzzled. They are both very familiar with soul beasts and observed nearby carefully, without noticing any abnormalities. Look underground. These pits are small and deep, and they are quite dense. This is clearly something that multi-legged creatures can step on. Where else is there venomous mucus? There's mesh here. It's already very clear what kind of soul beast it is. Yuan Yi said, pointing at several places, all of which were relatively faint, but he noticed them all. It's really true. Qian Renxue and Hulaina followed Yuan Yi's fingers and only then discovered those imperceptible marks. Both of them looked at Yuan Yi in surprise, greatly surprised by his observational ability. Is this insight that a 6-year-old child can possess? After a brief surprise, the two of them became solemn. As spider spirit beasts are usually difficult to deal with. Qian Renxue walked towards the tiny spider silk, wanting to observe it up close and determine which type of spider soul beast it was. Don't go, this soul beast has turned back again. Yuan Yi grabbed Qian Renxue and took a step forward, blocking her. Upon hearing this, both Qian Renxue and Hulaina suddenly changed their colors, their spirits tense up, and they looked ahead. Cautiously, zhi zhi zhi. A sound came from ahead of the three people, and the leaves began to shake slightly. A soul beast slowly approached. This is a spider with black and white dual color textures. Its body is like a grinding wheel, with a diameter of over 1 meter and 8 spider legs resembling spears. As spiders walk, they occasionally see special protrusions underneath their bodies, which resemble the contours of their faces. Yuan Yi clearly noticed that there was a ferocious face beneath the spider's body, which was quite peculiar. Seeing the spider, Qian Renxue and Hulina's pupils shrank at the same time and they spoke in unison. Human-faced magic spider. Xiao Yi, let's run quickly. This is a human-faced magic spider with a lifespan of at least 500 years, not something we can deal with. Qian Renxue spoke in a hurried tone, and had already grabbed Yuan Yi's arm as she spoke, wanting to run with him. Aunt Qian, don't rush to run. Since this is a soul beast that has been around for over 500 years, it would be perfect to become my soul ring. Yuan Yi grabbed Qian Renshue's hand instead, and as she was about to run, she grabbed her. Qian Renshue's strength was not as strong as his soul master, and he really didn't run. His first martial soul does not have any special requirements for additional soul rings, and can be obtained by any soul beast. Now he has finally encountered a soul beast that meets the age requirements and can bring him a sense of crisis, so he naturally won't miss it easily. Don't make a fuss. The human-faced demon spider is a very powerful soul beast. Over 500 years, it is enough to make many thousand-year soul beasts afraid. It's no less difficult to deal with than some thousand-year-old soul beasts, not something you can deal with now, Helena said anxiously. I should be able to deal with this soul beast, Yuan Yi said, looking at the rapidly advancing human-faced magic spider on this soul beast. He felt danger, but it was not an insurmountable danger. That is to say, he has the ability to kill this soul beast, and he trusts his intuition very much. Qian Yi, Hu Yi, find a place to hide and tell me about the situation of the human-faced magic spider next to you. After Yuan Yi finished speaking, he threw away the hands of Qian Renshue and Hu Laina, and suddenly charged forward to meet the human-faced magic spider. Xiao Yi, Qian Renshue and Hu Laina both exclaimed in surprise, feeling a bit angry about Yuan Yi's reckless behavior, but they couldn't scold Yuan Yi at this moment, so they could only stomp their feet and follow Yuan Yi's instructions to hide first. Xiao Yi, be careful of the legs of the human-faced magic spider. Its legs are highly poisonous and have strong penetration power. If stabbed, it may be a blood skeleton. Also, pay attention to the human face beneath its shell, which can spit out spider silk. The human-faced magic spider has a large silk coverage area, and the mucus attached to it is highly sticky and toxic. If you are trapped by a spider web, there is basically only one dead end, so be careful. Its face is its weakness. Qian Renshue and Hu Laina spoke one after another, quickly explaining the attack characteristics of the human-faced magic spider. The words of the two were firmly remembered by Yuan Yi in his mind, and he also had a certain understanding of the attack methods of this human-faced magic spider. Yuan Yi, who was charging forward, already had a golden long sword on his right hand. This was his second martial soul, the Taichu Shengyuan sword. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Amazing Combat Power, Slaying the Magic Spider. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Amazing Combat Power, Slaying the Magic Spider. The spider leg at the left front end of the human-faced magic spider fiercely stabbed Yuan Yi and was struck by his sword at the joint. The legs of the human-faced magic spider were as hard as iron, and when it was struck by the Taichu Shengyuan sword, it made a sound similar to a metal collision. The position of Yuan Yi's sword strike is very particular. It is the joint close to the body among the three joints of the spider leg. This type of joint is generally relatively fragile, at least compared to spider legs. They are more fragile. Just one sword left a deep scar at this joint, penetrating nearly half. The human-faced magic spider let out a painful hiss, and its three legs almost pricked Yuan Yi. In a stress response, Yuan Yi stepped hard with his feet, and his body seemed to lose weight. He jumped up and back, and his body adjusted its posture in the air. He dodged all three legs of the human-faced magic spider, not even touching his clothes. Yuan Yi retreated a few meters and landed steadily. The inertia of his retreat seemed to have also failed to make him stumble backwards. The human-faced magic spider let out a sharp cry, and its 8 legs quickly moved towards Yuan Yi, charging fiercely. The spider leg on its left front end moves a bit unnaturally, and Yuan Yi's sword just now injured this spider leg quite badly. Yuan Yi did not charge forward anymore, but approached a big tree, deliberately choosing the direction away from Qian Renshue and the other two. As he approached a big tree, the human-faced magic spider also approached him, piercing both spider legs at the same time. Yuan Yi suddenly accelerated, leaped forward, and stomped on the big tree as if walking up the trunk. His current action completely goes against common sense, which is not something that everyone can do when their body is parallel to the ground and they walk upwards. Click. The two legs of the human-faced magic spider's attack failed again, but were dodged by Yuan and pierced into the tree trunk. The penetrating power of the spider legs of this spear is indeed terrifying, effortlessly piercing into the trunk of the tree and penetrating it almost halfway. At the moment when the human-faced demon spider's leg pierced, Yuan waved the Taichu Shengyuan sword in his hand. This sword swept over the upper joints of both spider legs, and the previously deeply wounded joint was almost broken. The screams of the human-faced magic spider were even more mournful, as two spiders lifted their legs and stabbed towards Yuan. Dang dang! Yuan swung his Taichu Shengyuan sword continuously, accurately and quickly repelling these two spider legs. The area where his long sword struck was the fragile upper joint of the spider's leg, which not only resolved the attack but also caused damage to the human-faced magic spider. Dong! Yuan vigorously kicked the trunk of the tree, rebounded and flipped several meters in the air, landing behind the human-faced magic spider. The human-faced magic spider exerted force to pull out the leg of the spider that had pierced into the tree trunk. With a sudden pull, it directly broke the left front leg of the spider. After being chopped twice by Yuan, the spider leg had reached the edge of fracture, and now with just one force, it broke. The human-faced magic spider ignored the pain and quickly moved its body to avoid the sword that Yuan had swung. Pup! The human-faced magic spider adjusted its body and faced Yuan. After facing Yuan, its body suddenly lifted up and the human-faced Yuan, spitting out a spider web. A purple light shot out and magnified in the air, with an arc-shaped spider web covering Yuan. Be careful! Both Qianrenxue and Hulina in the distance were frightened and their faces turned pale, their hearts rising to their throats. Yuan's expression remained calm, his body floated back, and his long sword changed its grip. With the blade facing forward he swung his long sword down from top to bottom, passing through the gap in the spider web and dropping it with the web. The spider web that would have fallen on him was so altered by his sword that it failed to act on him. The killer web of the human-faced magic spider was easily resolved by Yuan, with a hint of ease in its movements. This. Qianrenxue and Hulina in the distance looked dumbfounded, somewhat skeptical of their own eyes. Not only the two women, even the human-faced magic spider was stunned, obviously not expecting this human to be able to dissolve its own spider web. The human-faced magic spider clearly had some disbelief in evil, and when it lifted itself again, it was about to spit out its web. Just this time, in the moment it lifted itself, Yuan's long sword turned into a straight grip and he swung it out with a fierce sword. When the long sword was swung, sharp sword sounds appeared around, and a seemingly simple sword seemed to contain mystery. The golden sword light pierced through the air, and wherever it passed, the soil on the ground showed thin sword marks as thin as hair. The human-faced magic spider was shocked and quickly wanted to protect its most vulnerable face. The speed of the sword light that Yuan chopped was too fast, and he didn't give it a chance to react. The golden sword light slashed onto the face of the human-faced magic spider, instantly penetrating more than 10 centimeters and splitting its face in half. The human-faced magic spider's scream reached its maximum, and its body moved wildly. Yuan did not take another action, looking calmly and coldly at the human-faced demon spider. The life of this soul beast had entered the countdown. After frantically moving for more than 10 seconds, the human-faced magic spider's body stiffened, and the spider's legs could no longer support its body, falling to the ground. A few seconds after the fall of the human-faced magic spider, a darker yellow soul ring floated out of its body. Hui, come here, Yuan shouted to the two women in the distance. Walking towards the human-faced magic spider. While walking, he took out several small wooden blocks that had been prepared in advance and injected soul power into them. There were some strange patterns on the wooden block, and as his soul power was injected, these patterns began to shimmer. Yuan threw these wooden blocks on the ground without any trace, without letting Qianrenxue and Hulina discover them. These are some small formations he drew for this hunting of soul beasts. Their function is to avoid beasts. The special aura emitted by the formation can make beasts retreat and dare not approach easily. The small formation depicted by his current cultivation level should be able to make century-old soul beasts retreat. Even some thousand-year-old soul beasts dare not easily approach. After learning from Qianrenxue and Hulina that absorbing soul rings takes a certain amount of time and cannot be disturbed, he began preparing this small formation with the cultivation of the two women. It is impossible to protect him when he absorbs soul rings. If he wants to avoid handing fate over to luck, he must prepare something for himself. After Qian Renxue and Hulina approached, they looked at Yuan Yi with monster-like eyes, both still in a state of shock. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would have found it hard to believe that a 6-year-old child could alone kill a human-faced spider that had been around for over 500 years. This is also because the human-face magic spider is not very intelligent. If it were smarter, it would be me who died. Yuan Yi said. This is not a humble statement, but a fact that the strength of the human-faced magic spider is clearly stronger than him. He is able to kill the human-faced magic spider mainly because there is a significant gap in their practical combat abilities. If the human-faced magic spider has his practical combat ability, it only takes 2 rounds and he will die. Of course, it is not easy, and it is even appropriate to say that it is impossible for the human-faced magic spider to have such practical combat abilities. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Requires 2 soul rings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 requires 2 soul rings. Qian Yi, Hui, pay attention to yourself. I'm starting to absorb soul rings, Yuan Yi reminded. Wait, this soul ring has been around for over 500 years, and the energy of the human-faced magic spider is quite fierce. You may not be able to withstand it. Qianren's snow obstructs the path, and Yuan Yi is quite resistant to absorbing this soul ring, fearing that he may not be able to absorb it. Hulina also spoke out to persuade, thinking that it's better to search again. Absorbing this soul ring is too risky. Qian Yi, Hui, don't worry, since I can kill it, I can absorb its soul ring. As for searching for another soul beast, this is something I should only consider after absorbing this soul ring. After Yuan Yi finished speaking, he sat cross-legged and released the summoning gate's martial soul, starting to guide the soul to circle around. Wait. Qian Renxue and Hulina didn't have time to stop Yuan Yi. Why is this child so stubborn? Hulina stomped her feet in anger, feeling a bit helpless towards Yuan Yi's temperament. Now I can only trust Xiaoyi, he can definitely do it, Qian Renxue said helplessly. Hulina could only nod and remain silent for a while. Suddenly, something came to her mind and she said to Qian Renxue. He just said he was looking for another soul beast after absorbing this soul ring. What does that mean? Xiaoyi probably wants to find a soul ring for his second martial soul, right? Qian Renxue frowned and said, we told him before not to rush to add a soul ring to the second martial soul. He also agreed. This child has a personality that he can do as he says. Since he has agreed to us, he should not back out. Why is he still searching for soul beasts? Hulina puzzled. I don't know either, only after Xiaoyi absorbs the soul ring can I know, said Qian Renxue. We should pay close attention to the surroundings. Once a soul beast approaches, even if it is dead, we should stop Xiaoyi for a while. Okay, Hulina nodded firmly in her eyes. This time coming to the star forest, she had prepared for the worst. The yellow soul ring floated above Yuan Yi's head, like a ribbon of yellow energy slowly flowing into his body. Yuan Yi uses the mind technique to quickly refine and absorb the energy injected into the body. He could clearly feel that these refined energies had a certain connection with his martial soul. In addition to normal energy, there is also a connection between soul energy and martial soul, which belongs to the human faced magic spider. With the injection of soul ring energy, his body felt swollen and uncomfortable. However, for Yuan Yi, this level of discomfort is somewhat minor and has little impact on him. For others, the threat of over 500 years of soul ring energy is not significant for Yuan Yi because his refining speed is fast enough. As soon as the soul ring energy enters his body, it is rapidly refined. Not much soul ring energy accumulates in his body, so naturally there is no situation where his body is damaged by energy. The absorption of soul rings is relatively smooth, and there are not many soul beasts approaching during this process. In the eyes of Qian Renxue and Hulina, this is naturally luck, but in reality, it is not. If it weren't for the small formations prepared by Yuan Yi, they would have become food for century-old soul beasts by now. More than 2 hours later, the yellow soul ring disappeared into Yuan Yi's body, and he completed the absorption of the soul ring. Seeing Yuan Yi complete the absorption of his soul ring, Qianrenxue and Hulaina finally let go of their lingering hearts. Xiaoyi, how do you feel? Hulaina crouched down and asked, pulling one of Yuan Yi's arms. Very good, all aspects of the body's attributes have been significantly improved, and the soul power in the body has become more powerful. Yuan Yi said of his feelings, what you have absorbed is the human face magic spider soul ring that has been around for over 500 years, and your soul power has been increased by at least 4 levels. That is to say, you are now a level 14 soul master, and may even be a level 15 soul master. Qianrenxue had a big smile on her face. When it came to Yuan Yi's improvement, it was as if she was talking about her own improvement, and she was overjoyed. Actually, my soul power is still at level 10 and I haven't been able to break through to level 11, Yuan Yi said. What? Qianrenxue and Hulina's smiles froze at the same time, showing an incredulous expression. How could that be? You absorbed a soul ring, and your soul power should have reached level 11 at its worst. How could it still be level 10? Qianrenxue suspected that Yuan Yi was joking with him. This situation is impossible to happen. Indeed, it is level 10. My summoning gate martial soul is somewhat special. Every 10 levels of my soul power increase, it can provide me with 2 summoning slots. Now my soul power is level 10, and there are only 2 summoning vacancies. I have just absorbed a human face magic spider and consumed 1 vacancy. There is still an empty space to be obtained, and only by filling in this space can I achieve a breakthrough. Simply put, I need to obtain 2 soul rings to break through the bottleneck. Yuan Yi explained to the 2 women. This is something he didn't say to the 2 women before, mainly because he was worried that they wouldn't believe him, and saying it would be useless now when it comes to this matter. He can verify it by using specific soul rings, rather than saying useless words. Surprisingly, there is still a situation where we need to absorb 2 soul rings to break through. Xiaoyi, are you sure you're not joking with us? Qianrenxue asked seriously. I won't joke about this kind of thing. My soul power is still at level 10, Yuan Yi affirmed. Let's look for it again. Once we encounter a suitable soul beast, I can prove it to you. Qianrenxue and Hulaina exchanged a glance and nodded slightly. Although they felt a bit unbelievable, they still chose to believe in Yuan Yi. Come back tomorrow to find it. We should leave now, said Qianrenxue. It's already night, and the forest has become even more dangerous. Yuan Yi and Hulaina both agreed with Qianrenxue's decision, and the 3 of them began walking towards the direction outside the forest. As he walked past the wooden blocks thrown underground, Yuan Yi pretended that his shoelaces were loose and picked them up without leaving a trace. Yuan Yi did not stop the formation and kept it in a triggering state, which could avoid encountering soul beasts on the way out. That is to say, it's difficult for him to tell Qianrenxue and the others about the existence of the wooden block, otherwise he wouldn't have to leave the forest tonight. We're really lucky, we didn't encounter any soul beasts along the way, Helena said in a cheerful voice as she walked out of the forest. After leaving the forest, her nerves were no longer so tense, and she felt a sense of relief. Let's walk another distance and rest about 5 or 6 miles away. This way, it's relatively safer and we can also walk less tomorrow. Qianrenxue said that it is unreasonable to rest outside the forest, as the soul beasts inside may leave the forest. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Windward Eagle, Absorbing Soul Rings Again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Windward Eagle, Absorbing Soul Rings Again. The 3 of them didn't stop to rest and continued to move forward, but at a slower speed and not in a hurry. Qian Hui, why don't I summon the human-faced magic spider and let it carry us? After walking for a while, Yuan Yi suggested. Okay, I've been walking all day and my feet are almost in pain. It would be great to have a human-faced magic spider carry us. And, coincidentally, I also want to see the soul skill effect after you obtain the soul ring. said Helena happily. She even rubbed her feet while speaking. As an ordinary person now, she couldn't bear walking for so long. I'm also curious about your soul skill effect. Qian Renshua looked at Yuan eagerly. Yuan smiled and distanced himself from the two women. Inspired by his soul power, a huge summoning gate appeared in front of him. This door has a height of 3 meters and a width of 2 meters. The frame has intricate patterns and black flowing energy in the middle with the appearance of the martial soul. A darker yellow soul ring slowly rose from the soles of Yuan Yi's feet at the moment of rise. The soul ring flickered with yellow light, and Yuan Yi had already activated the soul ring skill. The energy flow inside the summoning gate accelerated, and 2 spider legs resembling spears extended. First Qian Renshua and Hulaina stared intently as the human-faced magic spider walked out of the door. This human-faced magic spider is exactly the same as the living human-faced magic spider they encountered before. There is no illusory feeling in the body, it is flesh and blood, very real, and even the ferocious aura is indistinguishable. I don't know, but I thought this was a real human-faced magic spider, so real that it could be mistaken for real. Zhi. The human-faced magic spider turned towards Yuan Yi and made a strange cry at him. This is the special language of the human-faced magic spider. Qian Renshua and the two women couldn't understand it, but they could feel that the human-faced magic spider was trying to please Yuan Yi at this moment. The ferocious and bloodthirsty human-faced demon spider, known as the evil killer, can actually humbly please others. Qian Yi, Hu Yi, let's go. Yuan Yi smiled at the two women, and the person beside him, the demon spider, obediently lowered his body. The diameter of the back shell of the human-faced magic spider is just over 1 meter, and the 3 of them sit on it, which looks slightly crowded. It has 8 spider legs moving evenly, not very fast, which is equivalent to a human trot, but very stable. I have ridden horses and carriages before, but this is the first time I have ridden a human-faced magic spider. Sitting on the back of the human-faced magic spider, Helena found it very novel. This feels pretty good, Qian Renshua commented with a smile, as it was also her first time sitting on a human-faced magic spider. If only we were lucky enough to meet a suitable flying soul beast tomorrow, it would be much more convenient for us to travel in the future. Yuan Yi said, expressing his desire to obtain flying soul rings to the two women. Compared to soul beasts on the ground, flying soul beasts have relatively fewer numbers and greater difficulty in obtaining them. After all, it is flying in the air, and the biggest challenge for soul masters who cannot fly to hunt it down is how to attack it. If we are lucky tomorrow and encounter a suitable flying soul beast, are you confident in hunting it? Qian Renshua calmly analyzed. With its help, there shouldn't be any problem. Yuan Yi patted the human-faced magic spider under him. He didn't say it too absolutely, it was foolish to say it to death before he knew what flying soul beasts he would encounter. Zhi. After becoming Yuan Yi's summoning beast, the human-faced magic spider's spirituality improved a lot and responded pleasantly. It depends on whether our luck tomorrow is good or bad. Qian Renshua gave Yuan Yi a deep glance. After the battle between Yuan Yi and the human-faced magic spider before, she gained a lot of confidence in this 6-year-old child. That's about it here. Qian Renshua looked around and estimated the distance before saying Yuan Yi recalled the human-faced magic spider to the summoning gate, and the 3 of them began laying coarse cloth to prepare the place to sleep tonight. Today was a very tiring day for Qian Renshua and Hulina, as they quickly fell asleep lying on a coarse cloth. Yuan Yi was also tired, but he didn't fall asleep and was in a half-asleep state. If anything happened, he could get up immediately the next day. The 3 of them woke up around the same time as yesterday morning, but arrived at the Star Forest much earlier. At around 8 o'clock in the morning, the 3 of them entered the Starry Forest and began searching for suitable soul beasts for Yuan Yi. After being baptized by the human-faced magic spider soul ring, Xiaoyi's physical fitness should have improved significantly, and he can withstand higher years of soul rings. But this is only theoretical. The actual situation may not be like this. After all, he is still at level 10 soul power and has not been able to break through. So, when searching for soul beasts, we still need to target them that have been around for over 500 years. If you can encounter soul beasts that have been around for 600 or 700 years and are suitable for Xiaoyi, then consider whether to absorb them. Qian Renshua whispered. Hulaina nodded in agreement, and Yuan Yi did not object either. The search for soul beasts depends entirely on luck. It's not that you can get as many years of soul beasts as you want. Instead of thinking about how many years to obtain soul beasts here, it's better to pay close attention to the surroundings and see what kind of soul beasts pass by. Moreover, compared to the lifespan of soul beasts, he is more concerned about the bloodline quality of soul beasts themselves. After all, after becoming his summoning beast, the lifespan of the soul beast can increase with his cultivation level. Although blood vessels can also improve due to him, the speed of blood vessel improvement is much slower compared to the increase in age. The three of them remained cautious in the forest, dodging whenever they encountered soul beasts, and only those who couldn't were repelled by Yuan. Time quickly arrived at around 3 p.m., and after 7 or 8 hours of searching, Yuan still couldn't find a suitable target. During this period, they encountered 300-year-old soul beasts, but they were all on land and not flying. The most crucial thing is that these 3 land soul beasts have low bloodlines and did not meet the requirements of obtaining them from Yuan. If encountering land soul beasts with higher bloodlines and suitable age, they will also choose to absorb them, not necessarily flying. Unfortunately, these 300-year-old soul beasts did not meet his requirements and could only be encountered and not allowed. Jiu. A faint eagle cry came into Yuan's ear, causing him to suddenly stop. What's wrong? Shengyuan and Huliena both looked at Yuan, who had stopped, their spirits slightly tense. There is an eagle's cry, which should be from a certain eagle-like soul beast. It's nearby. Yuan looked up at the sky and said he was not looking randomly, but was staring in one direction, and the sound just now came from here. It seems that our luck is good. Shengyuan and Huliena both showed surprise on their faces. If the lifespan of this soul beast is at the level of 100 years, then our luck will be even better. The new book is on its way. If you like it, just click on bookmark and cast some recommended votes. Thank you very much. End of this chapter.